Hello and welcome to the Flourishing Introvert Talks with me, 𝗀𝗶𝗆. This is the podcast that celebrates the natural gifts of introverts so that we can flourish in all situations. Episode 312. Maintenance, Erasure or Power? Well, dear listener, for the first time in over 300 episodes of this podcast, I'm taking a different approach. Who said leopards can't change their spots? Whereas I typically present a fully formed idea and some useful hints and tips learned from either my experience or that of my clients, this week I present you with a conundrum. And what's so brilliant is that I wasn't even aware it was a conundrum until I started to discuss it with my team. Full credit has to go in the first place to 𝗵𝗲𝗀𝗃, an honorary team member who brought it into such sharp relief for me. I think the underlying topic here is that of resilience and resourcefulness, but I'll let you be the judge of that by the end. What it does do is remind me just how much trouble we can potentially get into when we make assumptions without checking for understanding. You've heard me say before, and will again, that as humans we are meaning-making machines. I don't remember where I heard this term first, but the moment I did, it made perfect sense. Something happens, and the human instinct is to align it with an existing model of the world that we hold. And if it doesn't seem to fit any of our current models, we create another one. Daniel Kahneman, in I think his work Thinking Fast and Slow, explained how the brain likes quick, neat explanations over messy, slow ones. So we jump to conclusions about why things happened, what things mean, and what this means about us and other people. This applies to situations we're in, observations we make, and the words people use. And my conundrum was initiated by the words someone used. My team and I, plus 𝗵𝗲𝗀𝗃, were discussing how typically by this time of year, and I'm referring to mid to late February, as I know that you may be listening at another time, so by this time of year, familiar patterns of thinking and behaviour often start to creep back in. We all agreed that it often reaches the point where, unintentionally, we've made ourselves easy again, agreeable, undemanding, compliant. It's rarely a conscious or considered decision, but it kind of feels simpler or safer in the moment, both physically and emotionally, to be easygoing. And of course, when we realise what we're doing or what we've done, we can feel the surge of frustration and those familiar feelings of guilt or shame. Ugh, I've done it again, or will I never learn? And ground, please swallow me up. I can feel the guilt because I've done it again, and shame because who have I become? As you can tell, those feelings and judgment of ourselves go beneath behaviour straight into our identity, and there it can hit us hard. So far, so aligned in our team exploration. And curiously, here's where our conversation got really interesting and the conundrum emerged. The term low maintenance was used, to which I had a really strong reaction. In that moment, my meaning-making had the idea of being low maintenance as a negative, of being dismissed, of needing to self-silence and therefore be easy to ignore. What's equally curious is that I don't like the idea of being considered high maintenance either. So I'm beginning to wonder if the problem, from my perspective, is with the term maintenance and not the high or low. I'll come back to that later though. So as promised in this different style of episode, let's compare and contrast the different views of the team. And I'll include the comments from a question I asked in the Introverts Corner Facebook group. I should add that if you want your views taken into account or your own questions pondered, that's the best place to flag them, so do join Introverts Corner if you've not already. It's both private and free. Back to the opinions. Most people, both team members and members of Introverts Corner, viewed low maintenance as meaning independent, not needing validation, having high self-trust and choosing not to fuss, all strong qualities and behaviours. My perspective in that moment, however, was that it implied not valuing myself sufficiently to have needs, of overly compromising to keep the peace, of playing small or being subservient, of being a dutiful follower rather than a sassy leader. None of these sit well with me, so I know why I had such a strong reaction. Maybe a bit of context will help here. If I were to tell you that in my first marriage and one later relationship, I would have been praised and saved from abuse for demonstrating those things that I now associate with low maintenance, I think you'll understand where I'm coming from. As a team, it took a while for us to understand each other's perspectives, and we knew how important it was to do that, especially given last week's topic of the power of listening. As we gave each other a chance to explain without judging or jumping to yet more conclusions, here's what we realised. The meaning of the term we were exploring shifted depending on the age or stage of life. We're from very different generations. Our experience and confidence, we've all travelled our own paths and encountered our own challenges. Our culture and family norms. We're a gloriously diverse bunch from around the globe. Who we are with. People have their own way of expressing themselves. Some are more skilled communicators than others, so it's important to stay curious and not take things at face value. And finally, it depends on how emotionally or psychologically safe we feel. Some can use that term low maintenance and mean it with love, and some may use it as an iron fist in a velvet glove. And when I include the comments from the question I asked in Introverts Corner, most considered it a compliment. Yet the context and how it was packaged was important. I think my real aha moment came in Helen C's response when she said how important it was to be aware of what meaning I chose to give it. She also said that if the comment triggers me, that's my stuff, and there's more work to be done there. Point taken, Helen, and something I'll take to my own supervision. In summary, it can be a case of same words, same person, different meaning, different reaction, sometimes within the same week, sometimes after years of lived experience. We've all heard of the straw that breaks the camel's back, haven't we? If I focus on my team's interpretation, their meaning-making, I can see it is empowering, liberating, honouring of self even. And when I focus on my own, it's humiliating, dismissive, and has me feel shameful. Since our conversation, it's more likely to serve as a call to action, wakening the feisty, sassy, cage-rattling pirate in me. And it really helps if I do that from a place of curiosity rather than indignance. In fact, there were a number of things to consider that emerged from our teen conversation, and they link to Helen's point about the meaning we're giving and the filter we're hearing it through. If it is that low maintenance classifies us as a convenience rather than as someone who deserves care and consideration, there is a problem. And I'll add that if we're not clear about our needs, they may be inferred, and if we're not explicit about our objections, assent or acceptance will be assumed. Now, I mentioned that I'd return to maybe what might be my sticking point, the word maintenance. Weirdly, that word had some emotional charge for me because it implies a resource drain, a commitment, a burden. And I don't want to be considered a burden, low or high, by anyone. This is not about shutting others out or shutting ourselves off, nor is it about being so independent that I'm cutting my nose off to spite my face. This is about owning the skin I'm in, taking responsibility for myself and showing personal leadership. In the same way that I don't need someone to complete me, I am already complete. I don't need someone to maintain me. And because I was caught off guard by the emotional charge it had for me, it is something else to take to supervision. So this once, whilst I'm coming to the end of this episode, it's actually the beginning of a quest I'm willing to embark on. It's a quest you're welcome to join me on if you recognise that you too have work to be done in some of these areas. I'm offering no clear definitions yet, no 5-point takeaway, not even a strategy, but I am presenting a collection of questions for us to ponder. What journey has this episode taken you on? And if I invited you to share your understanding, what do you think this episode was about? Introvert resourcefulness and resilience? The dangers of self-erasure when we introverts don't feel safe? The importance of being aware of the meaning we're making moment by moment? Or something else? I'm eager to hear. If you enjoyed this episode as much as I did, then please subscribe, rate us and leave a comment, because we know that helps other people find the podcast. And if other people find us, other introverts can flourish.
You are listening to an Intentional Media Production podcast.